So this video is going to continue my my inspirational look at films and as such, try and gather inspiration for my thriller film trailer. But however, this inspirational video is going to be slightly different from the other ones because I've actually gathered inspiration from a video game, which is a bit different from what I have because I obviously have inspiration from a film and two inspirations from film trailers. The reason behind this is because I feel that inspiration can come from anywhere, and it doesn't have to be, what you're trying to create. It could be from a book if I wanted, or a CD, or a piece of music. It can be anything. And seeing this game, remembering what it was about, and then replaying it, actually flooded me with ideas and inspirations for my thriller film. And just replaying it really got me the some of the elements I've been missing out from other videos and have filled them in. So the video game I'm going to be talking about is Mafia 2. Now Mafia 2 was released in 2010 and the platforms it was released on was Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, Windows PC and MacBook. Pretty much all consoles available at the time other than the Nintendo Wii. Released on Steam as well. And it is a gritty drama which follows the rise of a character called Vito Scaletta, the son of an immigrant family. As the game progresses, Vito joins the Falcone crime family and starts to become a made man, I put in quotation marks, along with his best friend Joe. Even though I was inspired by a video game, the story it follows and the characters it creates it creates this storyline and characters, this universe so well that I personally think it could quite easily be made into a film. And I even more so think that it does a better job of delivering the storyline and developing these characters much better than a film can. And yes, the game storyline lasts about anywhere between, I'd say, 5 anywhere up to 15 hours, which is a lot longer than a film. The way it floods out its characters is a lot better, and even in some cases better than some sequels that have been running from a long time. So because it's a video game, I have actually left out the camera work section. The reason I've left out the camera work more because it didn't really inspire me anyway, because in a video game, yes, you have cutscenes, but the majority of it's stuck behind the character as you move around. And I didn't really feel like I wanted to take any inspiration from that, because I don't really want to make my film about a video game, or even in the style of a video game, because that's not really what I'm trying to go for. So I've left camera work the section out. So we're going to get straight on to the storyline section of this video. The storyline is what I'm going to be talking about now, as I've skipped that camera work. So the storyline of Mafia 2, as I said, is a gritty drama chronicles about like the uprising of this character called Vito Scaletta, as we'll get onto in the characters section. And also he's the son of immigrants, so he also finds it hard settling into this new land of America back when the game was set in the 1940s and 50s. So obviously he joins the Falcone crime family and starts to become this made man in the Mafia, along with his best friend Joe Barbero. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. And Vito was actually an ex-soldier, and he gets caught up in the Mafia when he returns home, because he needs to try and repay his father's debt. And his father recently died and left a massive debt. I think the debt's about 2,000. Is it 2,000? No, 200,000. And back when this game is set, that's a lot of money, and there's not many ways you can make that much money in this short period of time which he needs to make it. So this is how he ends up getting caught up in all his problems with the Mafia, and he gets double crossed in the Mafia as well a few times, because it's the Mafia. You can't really trust anyone. These are guys that think they're above the law, think they're above a lot of people on this earth, and they're actually very secretive. Still, some people in the Mafia are out there today, and they're very manipulative and can cause a lot of harm to innocent people. Especially if you get caught up with them, even if it's for a small loan and you forget to pay it and it keeps rising, you can get yourself into a lot of trouble with these men. So they're always good people to avoid. Not that this is a life lesson video, but I'm trying to get a point across that the Mafia is this. Not that I'm planning to have it as my antagonist, but the way the storyline plays out is that the Mafia is the real antagonist. And yes, the Mafia is a lot of different people. It's the overcoming of the Mafia that Vito has to go through. So the storyline is gripping. And I feel it has a better plot than some films, as I mentioned in the intro. I do feel like this game could have been made into a film, and I do feel that it does a better job of fleshing out the storyline and its characters better than some films do. So it is a great experience to sit down and play and just take in this world that's been created by 2K Games, and just to experience it, the free roam, the detail they've put in to little conversations that people have. It's all, the storyline all builds into one another and it all links in, and it is an exciting story to follow. Even if you're not a gamer, I feel like most moviegoers will actually get a kick out of this game. So the inspiration I've gathered from this is not too much on the storyline itself, because I'm not really going for this Mafia type feel, but it's actually how they carried out the storyline itself. So I'll try to better explain myself here. The way they carry out this deep story and the twists throughout, which makes it harder for Vito to repay his debt, like when he gets caught up and goes to jail, makes the story so much more realistic and gets more interesting as the action goes on. So the fact that like he gets thrown in jail because he's working for the Mafia, this is something that would happen. No one's yes, the Mafia people get away with it, but the fact that he actually gets caught at some point, I feel, really makes this difference and really makes it feel like you're watching something that actually happened. Especially considering that he's in there for 6 years. So if you imagine the game gets put on hold for 6 years and you do this little chapter inside the prison, and when you come out, the scene is completely changed. There's brand new cars. It's the 1950s now. The 1940s have gone. There's new people on the horizon. There's new gangsters. There's new people in the Mafia. Everything's changed, and the fact that they incorporated this into it in a video game is something so original, I think, and I think it really does pay off. And the reason this has inspired me is because it's inspired me to, in my film, maybe something would happen to my character with I don't know how you play it off, or go back in time, or gets locked up in prison, or goes into the future, something along these lines. Gets trapped in a basement for several years. These are just speculations, but the fact that being away for so long and seeing how much things can change is I feel is a really good way to get people involved in the film. And yes, this would be hard to create, but if you focused more on the fact that maybe not so big of a change in between years and more focusing on people, I feel this could actually be a really good way of making my story interesting. So this has inspired me to show a twist within my trailer, to show that not everything is going well for my protagonist. I could do this by showing my antagonist or showing a big obstacle for my protagonist to overcome in the way that he needs to do. So to wrap this up, showing my antagonist in a way, showing how the destruction he's caused, the mayhem he's caused, the pain he's caused to families and friends. And I could play this out through the trailer, showing what my protagonist is up against, getting people involved in the film, making them feel like something bad is going to happen and my protagonist has to be there to stop it. And yes, I've discussed that I want my character development to develop into this moody old character who becomes less afraid and more fightful. I still feel there's a way to incorporate this in. So overall, the storyline of Mafia 2 is, I think, is very, very good. It's a very, very entertaining game. And it's given me lots of ideas of changing the period of time my story is set in, and just overall inspiring me to create good filmmaking. So now the mise-en-scène of the game. Now, I just want to point out before I start talking too much about this, the mise-en-scène that I'm knuckling down to in this video is the costume. Now, I don't feel like I've talked about enough about costume. I've talked about lighting, I've talked about props, I've talked about setting, so on and so forth, but I don't feel like I've knuckled down on costume enough, and thankfully, Mafia 2 really did grab my interest with costumes. So the costume Mafia 2 is what you would expect the Mafia to dress like, which is in a suit. Smart black suits or white suits for them to do business in is what I put. Just get straight down to business, for them to do business in. They don't dress like ordinary people. They want to look powerful. They want to look like they're above the rest, as I've explained. And I feel like wearing suits, not only in movies but in everyday life, it shows that your job is good. And the fact that you're making a name for yourself, I feel, and I feel like suits really pull that across. I like the black suit, even though in the game you can change costumes into a leather jacket, which I'll get onto later, because I think both of these types of costumes would quite easily fit the character, and it will fit the character I'm trying to create, is what I'm trying to say. And maybe even I could possibly even have both in the trailer. There's no reasoning why I can't have my character change costume in the trailer, because it's going to be showing different scenes, different times of the day. If I want to have him in a black suit portraying power in one scene, and then have him in this leather jacket in another scene, I can quite easily do that, because they're 2 separate days. He's not going to wear the same clothes every day. And I will get on to what I think about both costumes in a minute. So the suit costume implies power. And considering the Mafia have great power over pedestrians in their town, this is a very fitting costume to wear during the game. Another popular outfit which the protagonist wore was the leather jacket, which implies he is a tough guy who isn't afraid of a fight, which shows Vito's character, but also the character, it suits Vito's character that he likes to beat other guys up and stuff. But it also fits the character I plan to create in the thriller film trailer, because I plan to develop him into this fighting guy who doesn't care and who isn't afraid of a fight. So this is not only inspired, the costume has not only inspired me of what I want my character to wear, but has also helped me further develop the type of character I want him to be. And the lighting and props in the game are pretty basic. They're just what you expect. But the costume really stood out to me. Now, what I want to go on further about the costume is the fact that the suit implies power and is used for business, as I stated earlier. You could have a scene in the trailer where he's sitting down in a suit in front of people. Now, the suit is automatically going to convey that he's in power. Whether maybe not have him getting too much physical contact in the suit, but showing how the suit does make him seem like he's a well-established guy who's making a name for himself in the world. And I feel this is a good way to pull it off. Much like I did in the opening 2 minutes of my thriller film, I was inspired similarly to have my protagonist in a suit to convey that he has a good job and to convey that his life is going well with his wife and his wife being pregnant. It's kind of taken the same idea from that of having him show that he is powerful, kind of making people relate to him, thinking, he's done well for himself. Have I done well for myself? Yes, I have. I can relate to this guy. Or, no, I haven't. Maybe I need to be more like this guy. Either way, they're connecting to the character. So that's why I think suits are very good. But I also think the leather jacket can be very significant. Now, the leather jacket can show his character development. Maybe he starts off early on in the suit, and maybe and then as his character develops, he starts to get a bit more physical. The blazer comes off, the tie comes off, the sleeves are rolled up. He starts to look a bit more tacky and not this posh suit that he was wearing. Eventually, he's wearing the shirt tucked in, trousers, but he's got a leather jacket on over the shirt. Rather than a tie and blazer, he's got a leather jacket on. And then you see already, just from this picturing it, you can see how his character has developed just from this. And I think this is a great way to develop my character through costume, because it's going to show he was this business guy. He gets right down to business. He's all about, bringing in money and, just working things out, handshaking to people, making friends. Whereas my guy in a leather jacket, who's developed into, you can already tell, maybe his face is a bit more scrunched up, a tacky jeans. He's still got that shirt on, but the leather jacket over it implies that he's a bit more of a tough guy now, and that if you want to mess with him, you're going to be in trouble. Now, that's why I'm so happy with the mise-en-scène in this, because it's really helped me knuckle down on my costume. So next, I'm actually going to be talking about the setting and location of the film, of the game, which was very unique. So the setting and location for Mafia 2 is set in the streets of Empire Bay, which is a fictional location based on New York City. So yes, it's fictional, but yes, it's based on New York City. So it's very similar to New York City, but for the game's purpose, it's Empire Bay for to avoid any copyright issues and as such. Mafia 2 largely takes place in the early 1950s, with the first chapters set in 1943 to 1945, and the later chapters focusing on the early 1950s when he comes out of jail. Sorry, not jail. Which creates a nice contrast in the story. This location is fascinating because of how real they made it, how well they made this pretend world, and have made it seem like it's a real location. It is very inspiring, and as this is a video game, it is a great area to explore, and it is a very well made map. So because it's a video game, obviously, and the video game's free roam, you're allowed to just get in a car or walk and just drive around this massive city. And this is really great fun, I think, because you do really get to feel like this city's alive. There's lots of different places to go. You can go to bars and have a drink. You can go buy some new clothes. You can go and fill up on petrol. There's lots of different things you can do, which makes the city feel more alive. And the fact that people talk to you and you know people really brings this fictional city to life. And yes, it is based on an older version of New York. Empire Bay, in its own right, is its own created location. Much like the GTA games, they just rename cities like Los Santos, Los Angeles, or Liberty City, New York City. They just slightly rename it. But the difference between this and GTA is GTA literally is a recreation of those cities, whereas Empire Bay had a few twists in there as well. I made it its own location. So that's inspiring in itself. It is very inspiring, as this is a video game, and because it's been able to create its own world, it is inspiring to see them bring this world to life from their imagination, and that is inspiring to me. However, because of how big and detailed this location is, it would be impossible for me to create a location with the amount of detail and lifelike atmosphere that Mafia 2 is able to accomplish, and what they were able to do. Though I have gained some inspiration, as it's given me the idea to create my own fictional location, so I can create a completely new world. However, this would be a lot of work on top of what I already have to do with my research and planning as such. And considering I haven't even planned all of my film yet, it would be very hard to create something original without using any CGI or special effects, which I am not skilled enough to do, unfortunately. Even though I cannot use what Mafia 2 mastered, it was still a great thing to see developers and game makers making something fairly original. And that's what's inspired me, trying to make something that's original to me, and something that I can feel that I've created. Now, yes, I'm probably just going to use the everyday world because I don't have the time or the money or the know-how to create a fictional world. It's the fact that fleshing out these characters and their problems, making them seem real and making them have their own problems, creates something that is original to me, and hopefully will be original to what people have seen on screen before. So overall, yes, the setting is a bit far-fetched for me, but the inspiration it has given me and the motivation it has to create something original, I still feel is something that is very worth hanging on to. The music was a little bit hard to get inspiration from, and I will be explaining that, so this will be probably quite a short segment of the video. Because the music in Mafia 2, obviously it's a video game, so during gameplay there's no actual music. Maybe you have a little bit of a little... I like to call it a tingling beat in the background, but it's so slight that it doesn't really create any atmosphere of any sort, and it's not really something you notice is there as such. So I didn't really incorporate this into me talking about the music, so there isn't actually any music in the background. Yes, there is music heard in cutscenes, but it's very soft, and it's only to aid what the people are saying. So if it makes it more intense if people are shouting, or make it more soft if people are discussing a debate. It all depends on the atmosphere of the cutscene, but it's all stuff that you've seen in films anyway. And because it's even more slight than what it is in films, I found it quite hard to gather inspiration from it. So I kind of left this little bit out as such, because it was so hard to gather this such soft background music for like background for cutscenes. It didn't really count as such. And also you hear music from the radio in the car. When you're in the car, you can turn the radio and listen to music, or turn the radio on at your house in the game. So that is what I'm going to be talking about, the music on the radio. And it's very time-based. You have to remember that the game was set in the 1940s/1950s. So all the songs are from that era. There's one that always points out to me as Mr. Sandman. That was constantly playing. So you couldn't really take any inspiration from this either, because it's all time based. I'm not planning to set my film in the 1940s/50s. I'm planning to set it more or less in the present day within the past 10 years or so. So it was really hard to gather inspiration from this. So the music has not really inspired me, because it's not the same time-based era which I'm trying to create. I'm trying to create a modern day, or like a past 10, 20 years maximum type of film, whereas this is almost 60, 70 years ago, we have to remember now. But I'm criticising too much. This does not mean to say that it is bad music, because it fits the game perfectly and really does add to the overall well-being of Mafia 2. It creates this setting and this story that they're trying to create, and that is what inspires me the most about this. And I say this probably every time about time-based music, but it's the fact that it fits what they're trying to create. Yes, I can't really take inspiration from the music itself, but from that prospect, yes, I have taken inspiration. So, however, it has inspired me, as I plan to set it maybe in the late 1990s, early 2000s. So if I do plan to use this timepiece, I could have music from this era. Now, yes, even though I'm not allowed to use music that is already created by artists, I can still create a piece of music based on a period of time, which would make it feel more unique and original to my film. So I could listen to a mixtape of the early 2000s, late 1990s, and see the kind of beats that they go for, and from that create a music which is based on that beat, making it kind of more fit to that time scale. But overall, the music has inspired me because it has given me the vision that I want to make the music fit the time in which my film is based, to make it more believable for the audience, and to make it seem like this is actually going on. So the music I did find hard to gather inspiration for, but overall, the fact that it's fit the time, that's the thing I need to remember, is that as long as it fits the period of time you want to create, there you can't go wrong there. So if I do plan to set my film in early 2000s, late 1990s, I can create this kind of hip-hop, kind of early techno type music is what I've got in mind. Yes, I need to do a bit more research into the music, but I can kind of base it off that. Or if I do it modern day, I can get modern day music and base it off that, and it all come together eventually to create this intense, light-hearted at some points, intense at other points music which is based on that period of time that I want to set my film. So the characters in Mafia 2 is what I've been waiting to talk about, if I'm completely honest. For a video game, the characters in Mafia 2 are so well developed and fleshed out to the point that you actually care about them. You actually care about a video game character. And you're engrossed in this game between the relationship between Vito and his best friend Joe, and see how they handle certain tasks. The character development is so interesting to see Vito grow into this mafia lifestyle knowing character when he came from the war, and knowing he knows what he's doing isn't right, but he knows that it needs to be done because there's no other way to make this money as quickly as he is to pay off his father's debt. And you see him kind of slowly changing into this. He's fighting for his friends and believing in what he's doing. I've taken inspiration from this because I want my protagonist to I want him to start as a genuine guy, but then everything turns against him and he turns a lot more upfront and making his character much more dark, which I feel will create a slightly different character development and change things up from most films. And something else I just want to point out before I continue with this section is that in many games before, people come and go. Video game characters come and go. Much like movie characters, they come and go. You get a good game, the character's okay, but you don't hear anything from them. Unless you're doing a sequel as such, it gets a little bit difficult. But Mafia, you have to remember this is Mafia 2. The original Mafia game had a completely different cast. And Mafia 3, which is releasing some point in October, has a different cast. Apart from one character, which is Vito. Now, the fact that this game genre has never crossed as such, the original Mafia to Mafia 3, don't have any characters in each other's other than Vito, I feel proves that respect from this character, from the people that played this game. He's a video game character and people have respect for him. They have respect for a video game character. And I don't think anything else proves how much more lifelike you can make a video game character. And the fact that they have put him in Mafia 3 surely shows that they did a good job with Vito from the amount of people that like him. So Vito's best friend Joe is also a very interesting character, as he acts almost of like Vito's dark side, as he is the one who has the relations in the Mafia, and he can be quite violent himself. I have gathered inspiration from Joe, as I have a feeling having a friend who is more evil than the protagonist could aid my protagonist's character development into becoming this darker version of himself throughout the trailer, which I wish to create. I feel if I follow with the amount of depth both characters have been created from Mafia 2, if I do the amount of depth that they have in trying to create my characters and create a meaningful friendship through the trailer for the audience to follow and become attached to, I can really build some very fleshed out characters. Now, I do want to just say that I've gathered inspiration from Vito because he kind of follows the same path that I want my character to face. He starts in the war, he's a genuine guy, he loves his family, he finds out his father has a debt, he has to find a way to repay the debt, he joins the Mafia, he becomes a bad guy and becomes more violent. This is basically what I want my character to be. I want my character to be a guy who has a business meeting, he's very high up, he loves his life, he's doing well for himself. Something goes wrong, something changes, and his character slowly slips into this dark version of himself. And it's a slow process, but because of this friend that he's been friends with for ages keeps pushing him to this dark side, I feel like this will be a really good way to create a character which is slightly more unique than some other films usually you have. I know it's not a very good one to compare it to because it's not a thriller film, but Shrek. Shrek's character starts off as this grumpy old ogre. He meets Donkey, and through a mutual friendship, Shaving the Princess, he becomes this happy ogre, and he's a much more genuine guy. I basically want to do the opposite of that and make him seem like this genuine guy, pushed by his friend, turns into this kind of more grumpy version of himself, because I just feel like this will create more depth and more interest for the audience in the trailer, because the point of the trailer is making them want to see the film. Seeing this character turn dark through the trailer is going to make them think, what happened to this guy? And overall, I think that will give the audience a push to come and see my thriller film. So, I just want to finish up this video, as I always finish up my inspirational videos, by just giving a personal opinion on the game, just to wrap it all up and to kind of put all my inspirations into one. So, overall, I will be fanboying, because I think this is a brilliantly made game, with a cementment on making a realistic story for gamers to get invested in, and to create characters that are almost lifelike for the gamers to really get attached to. And it kind of makes it more like an interactive movie. I think of Mafia 2 as an interactive movie because you get so engrossed in the storyline and in the gameplay. It's the best of both worlds. And for someone like me who loves movies but also loves video games, it couldn't have been a better choice of video game for me to play. This game keeps its audience interested the whole way through, much like a film is supposed to do, and many of them do, because of the type of storyline and gameplay it provides, which is seen in, and I see it in a film where, as I said, I've gathered lots of inspiration from this game, and it's helped me to come closer to creating my final thriller film trailer. So from the characters, to the setting, to the music, to the costume especially. Characters and costume are at the top. It has really allowed me to get closer to my overall goal of creating my thriller film trailer, and it's really made me see that using the development that Mafia 2 has used, and using what I intend to make, it really has helped me push myself to try and create what I have in mind and not be stopped by the limitations that I keep going on about. I want to create something that I have in my head, and I will do the best I can to create that vision, with still keeping it realistic and still keeping it as professional as possible. And with the inspiration I've gathered from Mafia 2, I feel like this is becoming ever more possible for me to do.